Hello, all you lovely people out there in podcast land, and welcome to an awesome episode of Cut and Splice. I am the guest host, Yusuf, and I am happy to be here with these awesome Cut and Splice people, and we're going to get into something that you all are going to love. So here we go.
Today we're going to be doing Tropic Thunder.
And we how this came about, I think it was we had a few messages back and forth on Facebook about it, about the movie, because there was some it's gotten in the press a little bit lately, as Ben Stiller has been asked if he should apologize for that movie or if he thinks it's appropriate and stuff, and we're looking to bring Yusuf back, especially to correct for the mishap we had last time, not having a complete episode.
But it was a really epic episode. I mean,
Yes.
I think it goes down in Cut Splice history as me and Jason single-handedly ticked up Gil and Matt's rating for Alita. So I felt good myself, like convincing them to like up their like ratings a little bit after our conversation. So like I still hold that mantle like on my shelf, that because Matt and Gil are they're very stringent in their ratings. So for them to like well, okay, I give it a little bit more. I'm like, all right, cool. Like that was an accomplishment for me.
It was a big win.
That was a big win.
I also like to think that podcast was single-handedly the reason why the Alita 2 project is moving forward.
Dude.
We can take credit for that. That's fine.
Yeah, we'll take credit. Dude, I think Cameron came across that podcast, like that particular episode. It was like, you know what? I'm doing Avatar, and I heard this podcast episode. You know what? Let me call Robert Rodriguez. Let's get this thing going. So
I can just picture him going, they like me. They really like me.
It's like this Matt and Gil guy. They need they need to finish this story, I guess. So
yeah.
Get on.
So yeah, Cameron was like,
really
hold my
bothering.
beer. I'll show those two. Sorry. Okay, but I'm sorry. We off the mark. So yeah, we here to talk about the awesome 2008 classic, and I say that with a capital C.
Yep.
Tropic Thunder.
Quickly, I was just going to say for anyone who might have missed the previously mentioned Battle Angel Alita episode, which I heavily recommend listening to. Yusuf went to film school with us at Columbia College Hollywood, and we all graduated together and worked on each other's films and hung out and went to Roscoe's Chicken and Waffles and all sorts of other stuff.
That's crazy. I've yet to go to Chicken and Waffles. I should do that at some point.
Yes. Yeah, you gotta go. It's amazing. It's who would have thought? Well, that makes sense. Like the salty sweet of it.
Yeah.
It's brilliant. It's brilliant.
Mm-hmm.
Cool.
That's the thing.
I had like a question. I guess I could start us off as far as Tropic Thunder. Did any of you have a sense? Because I know watching a movie for the first time, especially a comedy, and if it's a good comedy, you definitely have a strong reaction to it. But I do feel like this is one of those movies that with time you realize how important it is and how much of a classic it is, even though it was through and through solid when you watched it the first time. But I think it's actually the opposite of what people say. I think that it's aged well as opposed to aged not well. What they were doing there and the commitment they had to everything about this movie, from the design to the jokes to everything. Because I really felt like watching it this time, like, wow, this is like firing on all cylinders. And I remember liking it, but this is really, it's one of those times where I might need to inch my my rating up, because I rated it like an 8 back then, but I could almost tick it up to like a 9, or at least like 8, like a high 8, because it's I really feel like this movie is as grown in significance with time.
I would agree. I mean, I obviously don't put any weight towards the people who the comments like you described, where people saying that it didn't age well, mostly because their reasoning for why it didn't age well is always some contrived garbage about like political correctness. But that's like saying that Blazing Saddles didn't age well. I mean, Blazing Saddles was already controversial back then. You know, it was.
Yeah.
And that's a hilarious movie to watch today too. And like you said, it's almost like, how did you say it, Gil? It's almost important in the sense that like the way that they push boundaries and such.
Yeah, like that's for sure. Like because a movie like this might not be able to get made in the same way, which I actually don't completely agree. I think that the right director with the right clout can get that done, like anything in Hollywood. But yes, there's something about like the fact that it was done when it was done, like right before all the sensitivity thing became more prevalent, and it's almost like an important document, sort of like Blazing Saddles. Even though I don't think Blazing Saddles was more so an anti-racist movie than this was. I really think,
of course, for sure.
Like this movie has it makes a mockery of everything, whether it's the blackface, whether it's the drugged up actor, the crazy
the insane what do you call it, studio head.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it wasn't focused on race in any way. It was a part of it, but it's got so many, the whole mentally challenged role that plays a big part in the plot. Like all those things is like it's intentionally trying to touch on all these things in order to like make fun of them, which is why I don't think that even now, if the right person made this movie, like if Ben Stiller made this movie now and he was coming off of like great other successes, like other movies that did well, it would be fine. Some people, there'll be articles like hating on it, but it will still be great. It would do well, I think.
Okay, so let me ask you this. Well, for the record, for me, this movie, and I rewatched it a few days ago. Like, and to Gil's point, there's so many relevant things in this movie that just capsulize like the Hollywood system, like the monster that's the Hollywood system, right? And far as satire, and we don't see hardly any good satire anymore. Even if it's satire, it's shot down, because like you said, it have to be picked apart. The Twitter mob have to pounce on some like minutia of like something that's there, take out of context and be like, this is horrible kind of thing. So for me, this movie, like far as a comedy and on top of that, a satire, like it's a 10 for me. Like this movie is like flawless. The execution, what it was saying, what they were poking fun at, it worked on so many levels. But my question for you, Gil, is like to piggyback off of what I was saying with with social media. I think 2008 we wasn't fully into the whole social media revolution. So if Ben Stiller was to make a Tropic Thunder now, would you think? Do you think it would be more of a backlash to the point where Ben Stiller have to compromise his writing or specific things that he would have done in the 2008 Tropic Thunder that he would probably have to alter just to save face and not get that kind of backlash?
It depends, because the issue with movies, because we've had these examples. You see a lot of stand-up comedians like Chappelle and others that really push the boundaries, like they go past the boundaries in some of their recent specials. But because specials don't have trailers, like if you have a marketing campaign and you play up Robert Downey Jr. having a black face, and like it's just not gonna. There's gonna be so much backlash before anybody even sees the movie that I can see that maybe hurting its bottom line. But I don't think it would stop its release.
Right.
Like not in that, because it's a comedy. Like there was that movie. I think we've even brought it up at some point in one of our discussions. There was the um, Nina Simone biopic where
Zoe Saldana.
Zoe Saldana like put on like a bigger nose and like darker complexion, and that movie never saw the light of day. Not that I saw it anywhere showing, but it's because there's so much marketing going on before the release that sometimes there could be so much backlash if it's a serious movie that it never sees the light of day. But a comedy, I mean, it's still going to be released. Most comedies are, and there's many, many terrible comedies that are very, very offensive, and not even good quality, but they still get released in theaters. And this, like anything else, would have good word of mouth, and it would do well. But I do agree that something about like the trailers and marketing could hurt it. But I think if they stick to their guns and just release it, you can't stop like word of mouth.
Oh, totally. Yeah. Oh, yeah. And like I said, okay, I see. Okay, well, before I get into this, did any of you see this in theaters when it was released?
Absolutely.
Yes.
Okay. Yes. Okay.
I think so, yeah.
All right. So I seen this the first weekend it was released. It was, it was a full theater. The crazy thing was it was like an afternoon. It was probably like a 3 o'clock show or something like that, and it was fairly full. Now I don't know if you guys remember this, but the movie didn't have like it didn't start off with real trailers, like actual trailers. Like it started off with the Tropic Thunder trailers. So at least in my theater, like when it's like when the lights went down, the Al Pacino booty sweats popped up. We like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
And then it went into the Scorcher. Then when we saw the Scorcher trailer, that's when everybody was like, oh, okay. That all right. I get what's going on now. Like that was unheard of. Like that was such like a kick the door in. Like, okay, you guys are going to experience a movie within a movie within a movie, and it is going to like drop kick, and it's going to punch, and it's going to hit you with a spiked baseball bat. Well, all of these references of what we already absorb every day when we pay a movie ticket and sit down and see the movie, like the cliches, the things that you've seen over and over, and they're gonna poke fun at it for 2 hours. Enjoy. Once I wrapped my head around it before the movie even started, I'm like, okay, this movie is gonna be something special. Like, I don't know if y'all felt that way, but the trailers alone was like, okay, let me strap myself in. This is gonna be something special.
For me, when I saw it, the trailer thing was awesome, no questions about it. It was reminding me, of course, of like just a year, I think, before that or so, when the Grindhouse movies made their fake trailers, but and those are hilarious.
Oh yeah.
But this was really, really funny because each one was definitely targeting like a type of thing or a type of actor or whatever. But I mean, the Scorcher thing's funny, the Al Pacino thing's funny. The
fatties,
the fatties is funny, but when they show the Satan's Alley trailer, and I'm kind of laughing already. I'm like, I get the gist. Okay, this is a total Oscar bait thing. You've got the gay monk and everything like that. It's funny. Oh, it's it's Tobey Maguire. That's even funnier. Okay. And then they do the joke about the MTV Best Kiss thing. I'm already laughing. Like I'm laughing about as much as I thought I could laugh. Okay?
Right. And the movie hasn't started yet.
The song, I think it's called Sadness by Insomnia.
Yeah.
Starts playing. Mm-hmm. And that's like a song that I've had on since my very first iPod, probably. Like this song is like this ridiculous Gregorian monk chant thing mixed with
What was that?
techno
It came
music.
out in the 90s, right?
It was a 90s thing, yeah. It's a very cool little kind of techno type song, but it's got like a bunch of monks chanting. And the fact that they would put that in the trailer, these monks having a homosexual experience with each other, I died. Like I couldn't take it anymore. And the movie hadn't even started yet. When that song hit, I was like, no, like no way.
By the way, did any of you actually watch the movie with any of the DVD commentaries?
Oh yeah, that's legendary.
It's the best.
I mean, particularly with John Toll.
Oh no, I didn't see that. I've only listened to.
Oh wait.
Well, okay. I mean, this is some of the stuff we probably should talk about later, but
yeah, the spoilers section.
Yeah, I mean, needless to say, the commentary on this movie is fantastic. It's unlike anything else, and it's because of an inside joke in the movie. And so I've listened to the one with the 3 actors. I've never listened to the one with John Toll.
Yeah, but I mean, for context, for anybody who's not a complete cinematography nerd, John Toll is a 3-time Oscar nominee, 2-time winner in cinematography.
That's why this movie looks so damn good.
Yeah.
Right. He won for Legends of the Fall. He won for Braveheart. He was nominated for I think The Last Samurai. No, he was nominated for Thin Red Line. Okay. But he did shoot The Last Samurai, which is also a great looking movie, but
and a better movie.
Yeah, there was a we can fight about that later.
Yeah, well, there's an episode coming.
That's another episode.
Yeah, but yeah, there was actually a commentary, at least on the DVD that I had, with John Toll, and they got to the Fatties trailer, and that was when Ben Stiller asked John Toll, like, "So can you explain your lighting approach to this?" And you can just hear John Toll me like, fuck. the scene that he intentionally lights like a sitcom.
That's funny.
That's not easy to do. If you don't do it very often.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's hilarious.
Oh God, Ben Stiller.
Yeah. But I guess if you want, we can get to your Matt and Jason, your ratings, and we can.
Oh yeah. Let's move this right along. I would hold this at a very strong 9. It's almost a flawless movie. Every flaw I have with it basically comes down to nitpicking. But I really love this movie. It's one of my favorite comedies, and I have a real I wouldn't call it a soft spot, but I would say that like I give a real generous rating usually. So maybe you would call that a soft spot. I don't know, whatever. But I really like movies that are about making movies, as I think many people in Hollywood obviously do, which is probably narcissistic. But when you see how many of them win Oscars in real life, But no, I mean, like, this is a great movie. It's technically about making a movie, even though it's ridiculous. And I think every single person in this movie is giving some of their best performances they've ever given, with very few exceptions. And I mean, I would almost give it a 10. I think it's like a real solid 9.
Yeah.
Okay, so when it comes to comedies, one of my biggest barometers for success is Yusuf brought this up, like, did you see it in theaters? And yes, I did. And I'm glad I did. But I mean, comedies in theaters for me are a little bit of an experience that I like to take with a grain of salt, because laughter, just like, hiccuping and everything like that, and or yawning, it's infectious. A bunch of people in the theater start laughing, it's infectious. You might start laughing. I just rewatched this today. I was just in my Airbnb looking at my laptop, watching the movie, and I was busting my gut laughing, and I've already seen it 5 or 6 times before this. I think that this is my favorite comedy of the 21st century.
Wow.
I don't see I don't see another great comedy coming out until after I'm dead. Given the given my persistent past alcohol problems and also the issues with how it seems like the majority of the world just wants to ban comedy at this point.
Had to take it to a dark place. Okay.
Yeah. But this movie is just it is so irreverent in every way that it should be, and it is so reverent in every way that it should be. It takes itself seriously everywhere that it should be taken seriously, and it's taken completely off the fucking wall everywhere that it should be. It is just so perfectly done in that sense. I mean, again, just referencing John Toll, like bringing on an Oscar-winning cinematographer to do this thing, making it a story about the aging action star who is trying to but okay, but like all of the jokes, I mean, like even the stuff that was in the trailer, I mean, every comedy, like that's the biggest thing, like they're gonna put the funniest shit in the trailer, right? And so you're going to watch the movie and you've already seen it in the trailer and it's gonna fall flat, right? But I mean, that bit where Robert Downey Jr. is like, what do you mean, you people?
What
do you mean, you people? I mean, that was in the trailer, and it's still fucking funny.
Oh man! Oh Lord!
I know exactly who I am. I'm the dude disguised as the other dude, pretending to be the other dude. You know? I mean, it is just so well done, and so like you've even got Matthew McConaughey as like the most devoted agent in the history of mankind, and you've got Tom Cruise as this.
As
in
Les
one of his greatest roles. Like, no, this is a 10 out of 10.
Thank you. All right, there we go.
You're not going to bump me up on this unless you start saying that it's going to be a 12 or something.
I was almost gonna adjust my rating because of like Matt's. Although he took it too far, maybe it's because Yusuf. Every time he's here, I change my rating. But I would say before we go to spoilers, which I'm sure most of the second half will just be like mentioning gags and laughing about it together. But to defend my rating, I sort of looked up my top comedies, and there's movies that I can't put this in front of. I can't put this in front of Team America. I think Team America is a more consequential movie and is just as funny. I can't put it ahead of Young Frankenstein, which I rated a 9 or a 10. I can't put it ahead of Dumb and Dumber, which I think is a funnier movie, even though I think this is actually sort of like Dumb and Dumber. They're both not very consequential movies, but they're just like laugh out loud, like really, really fun. And this is just more like offensive, outrageous than Dumb and Dumber. And I can't put it ahead of Doctor Strangelove because that's probably the most significant comedy ever made. It's like the 2001 of comedies. So I think, and my rating for all those ones are like 9 and 10, 9 and 10. So this is like probably somewhere in the top 10, maybe 5th, 6th place, like of my favorite comedies. Okay. But as far as 21st century, I do put Team America above this, but this is probably second place.
Yeah, and as you just pointed out, Team America is the only one on your list that has been made in the 21st century.
Yeah. Oh no, for
Pretty
sure.
insane.
Yeah.
Yeah, but you know, to me, what Team America does that this movie doesn't do is that it's about something. It's not just because this movie is mostly just for laughs. It does get into like all the offensive stuff, but it's not for any purpose. It's like I said, it's not Blazing Saddles. It's not making fun of the blackface in order to be anti-racist. I don't think it does that. It does it in order to have fun. It's a have fun movie. Whereas Team America, also this movie is shot like a war movie and it looks great, but it doesn't make fun of that fact. Like Team America was shot like a big action movie, but it's with puppets. Like there's just something that's just like one oomph more about Team America, like that just really just resonates more as a story, as a movie.
Okay.
But as a fun at the movies, yeah, I mean this movie is a fun time. I just don't think that it's really about anything. It's just
Okay.
having a great all time, which there's nothing wrong with those movies. I just can't put it ahead of movies that are also fun, but also mean more, try to do more, try to say more.
Okay. Well, I will. Okay. Okay. So I will. I will argue. Like I will have a counter about your statement that said, you're saying that this is all fun, but didn't really have anything substantial. Like for me, this movie is more clever than anyone give this movie credit for. Like far as the writing, and as far as what, okay, like for me, this movie was a mirror, a mirror to like modern Hollywood, the system, right? The system, right? And also it touches upon like identity crisis, right? I mean, every single character is going through an identity crisis. Like this, like of course, Kurt Lazarus is the obvious one, right? But you had identity crisis with sexuality with Al Pacino. You had identity crisis with well, not necessarily identity crisis with Jack Black, because it was more addiction with him. Yeah, but the only go ahead. I'm sorry. Go
I was
ahead.
gonna say, just to back up what you're saying, like at the end, without getting into spoilers, there's a moment at the end of the movie where everything is coming down to the last second, and they're literally talking out their problems, and Jack Black says, "Yeah, we all have problems. Let's go."
Right, exactly. That's the thing, and I think that's why I feel like this movie like says a lot without you really. It says a lot without drawing attention to what it's trying to say. I think that's what I really love about this movie. It's like when you look at the characters and you see what these characters kind of represent within certain facets of the Hollywood system, right? They're kind of like victims of it, right? They're victims of the vanity element of the Hollywood system, therefore.
And perpetrators.
Right, exactly. So for me, I think this says a lot. I know it's in like in good fun. Like you're right, it is a fun time. But if you kind of peel the layers back, like Ben Stiller is really making a really biting commentary. Like if you could put it in like more of a serious text, it's really like a biting commentary about, like Hollywood, like actors, the system, the producers, how films are shot and things of that nature, So I don't know. I think that's kind of like, and it wasn't until like the fourth time I actually watched it that I was really just getting in the weeds of like, all right, what the representation of these different characters and how that reflects, the world that they're in right now, which is pretty much the real world of Hollywood, right? So I don't know. I think that's kind of like I see a lot more in this movie than the next person, But that's why I think that this movie has a lot more to say than people give it credit for.
Oh no, I think people give it credit. I mean, I don't think that anybody misses that. It's very clear that it's making fun of Hollywood. But that's what I mean. That like making fun of Hollywood is not a consequential subject as much as Team America making fun of world politics. You know, Team
well.
America makes fun of Hollywood, and it's just like an eighth of the movie. That's how consequential that movie is, because there's so much to it than just making fun of actors, which it does as well. You know, like Young Frankenstein is about reanimating life and recreating essentially Frankenstein in the Frankenstein movie in a humorous way, and it's just there's something like just really like, you know, what it means to be a god, to create, like for a human to become a god. Like there's all these like ideas there while still being funny. So that's what I mean, that like a movie ultimately that's just about whatever the characters are going through and making fun of the Hollywood system. It's fun. It's
So you
great.
think
It's top 10 all-time comedies, but it's just not as good as those movies.
So you think Team America wasn't making fun of the Hollywood system with Matt Damon and everybody else?
No, it did. What I'm saying is it did that plus so much more that this movie doesn't. Like maybe if this movie got into like, you know, if someone like a Mel Brooks or Matt Stone and Trey Parker made this movie, they would probably have an underlining element about how ultimately like vain the whole thing is. Like it does touch on that, but they don't really get to the bottom of it. They don't really get to the like, this is all just very silly. What really is important in life is to be a good person, or to like, you know, blah blah blah. It's not about being a famous actor or to make a successful movie. Like they could have done that. Ben Stiller didn't play that up because it's not his style. He made fun of fashion with the Zoolander movies, and he made fun of Hollywood with this movie, and that's his shtick. He makes good, solid movies. I just don't think he goes as deep as like some of the Mel Brooks movies and some of the, you know, and of course Team America and some other ones, but there's not too many of them. I'm not disagreeing that comedies for the most part are not taken very seriously. I mean, Doctor Strangelove was basically about the end of the world. I mean, you don't get more consequential than that.
I was gonna say I kind of think that there is the substance in this movie, like what Yusuf is saying, but I do think that similar to the way Gil put it, I think it's there. It's just that, and I don't see this as a flaw. It's just that I feel like Ben Stiller chose to focus more on the other aspects of the movie than what its essential themes are. And I mean, you know, I guess someone could say that that's a flaw, but I don't. I just think it's just a choice that was made. That's an interesting choice.
Right.
I was going to bring up a few things that go along with what Yusuf was talking about, but I was going to wait till we get into the spoilers. But
okay, we'll wait till we
can
get
to the spoilers.
Real quick though, before we do that though, I was just going to say this won't take long. I don't know about the rest of you guys. I have only seen 3 of Ben Stiller's movies. I think this one is by far his best. I also saw Zoolander. I thought it was funny. I don't like it even close to as much as this one. And then I saw Cable Guy, and I think that one's kind of a bit of a miss, but it is all right. I think it's way lower than Zoolander.
Did he do Reality Bites?
I think he did. I haven't seen it though.
Yeah, he did. That was like his first movie, it seems like.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. But I agree. This is definitely like his magnum opus.
Yeah, I haven't seen The Secret Life of Walter Mitty, and I heard interesting things about it, but
the cinematography was great in that movie. I mean, the movie was.
Eddie shot it on film, so you know.
Yeah, cinematography was amazing in that movie.
I was surprised when I looked up to see what movies of his I've seen. This was the last film of his that I've seen as an of him as an actor, and that was 15 years ago. So I don't know, it's a little odd, but that's just the way it is.
True.
Yeah, but definitely, I mean, I don't want to say, like, what I'm saying is because we're doing this podcast to get to the meat of things. Like, so I'm not saying I dislike the movie. I love the movie. It's still like, top 5, top 10 of all time, but it's just that I'm explaining why I have to put a few movies ahead of it. But
yeah, of course.
yeah,
Hey, man. Hey, man. It's your list, man. Like,
yeah,
hey,
exactly.
That's your
Everybody
truth.
has their list, and it's totally it's acceptable. I wouldn't argue with anybody telling me like, well, I want to just have fun, like, and this is my kind of movie. I was like, totally, I totally understand that.
Right. And you have awesome comedies, like, before it. I mean, you would have said, oh, yeah, I'll put, I don't know. I don't know, some like corny like comedy that
What was
nobody
the
likes.
Mafia?
Then
Oh
we
my
have
gosh.
then we have to
Mafia.
argue. But the movies I'm like, okay, all right, okay, cool. Like I stand corrected.
Yeah. Well,
Um,
I mean, one thing that we can say is that the messaging of the movie did at least cut deeper than Half Squat's knife at the end. So,
yeah, and there's no denying that, like, culturally,
That's
this
funny.
movie does
That's
have
funny.
significance because
Yeah.
it resonates today because of how sensitive things have become. So
Yeah.
it's become more profound than it even has any business to be in a way because of that reason. Um, yeah.
Yeah.
Anything else before spoilers?
I don't think so.
Yeah, let's go.
Okay, and spoilers. Who was I guess Yusuf, you should go first if you have anything that
Oh,
you
oh,
want to
okay.
discuss.
Well, okay. So after watching it again, um, I always go back and Matthew like said, the classic trailer line, you people, it's I think for me, like there's so many it's so many memorable lines in this movie, that you can just throw off the cuff, and the reason why I say this movie is so clever, like it's almost like it's it's scandal proof almost, because how Ben Stiller strategically wrote this movie, right? Okay, so you have Robert Downey Jr., Kurt Lazarus character, doing this radical pigmentation surgery to be African American for this war movie. So he knows that if he just left that as it is without anyone, like, as a character kind of being the voice of the audience, saying like, that's fucked up. That's where Al Pacino comes in, right? So
Yep.
Al Pacino is that character that we, the audience, looking at Roger D like, that ain't right. That ain't right. You have that person right next to him saying, you Australian, man, be Australian, Kangaroo Jack, like he was all constantly calling him out. And and this, like I said, it's very smart and strategic how he wrote these characters to make it where, okay, I know the audience is gonna say this, but let's bring this other element of Hollywood. Let's bring this black rapper, turn actor that in the late '90s or so was kind of all the thing. You had Tupac and all them that was kind of crossing over, to major Hollywood roles. And so he was touching upon that element of Hollywood, and bringing that element into the fold of this fake, pretty much this Heart of Darkness, like, spoof of a movie, with pretty much what it was. And you have that. Of course, you had the Pecker, the what's his name, the Matthew McConaughey character, and his endless like crusade to get that's one thing that's outdated. The TiVo. Like, it's like, oh, I gotta get the TiVo. I gotta get the TiVo for, my man, all that stuff. So, it's funny, like, after rewatching it, and like seeing how it was written from more of a screenplay standpoint, I'm like, this is a fucking brilliant script. Like, it's so brilliant how
So
he
good.
figured out how to scandal proof this whole movie, because to let you know, with the trailers, you have the personality of these characters before we get into the Tropic Thunder, air quotes, movie. So it's like, all right, so these trailers represent these characters in the trailers of these movies that I'm sure you've probably seen trailers for a million times. You got your Clump movie, you have your, your Oscar bait movie, you have maybe your Tom Cruise action vehicle of a Scorcher, and then you have the rapper like pimping his product, being his booty sweat and busting up bar at the concession stand. I mean, for me, like for a movie to kind of, like I said, to go a movie within a movie within a movie and done right and done funny and done with such a cleverly biting manner and gave all the characters have an arc. I mean, everyone have an arc. I mean, no one is like kind of falls by the wayside. Like everyone kind of at the end have some kind of arc, which I thought was like really really clever. But yeah, so that's kind of like my opening salvo on on that one.
I also love that scene where Brandon T. Jackson,
Al Pacino.
Al Pacino is lecturing Robert Downey Jr. and he throws him the "dingo ate your baby" thing, and like, hey, that's a real problem, man. Like a woman lost her child. You don't bring that up.
You took it way out of line.
Right.
You about to cross the line.
And then okay, I love that you lobbed that up because as that scene progressed, right?
Right.
Like he slaps Al Pacino and then he hugs him. He's like, for 400 years, we are, and then he's like, now we up in the big league. Gotta turn that bet, and then Al Pacino realizes the thing for the Jeffersons. And I'm like, this movie is just lobbing so many hilarious references at me. It's like, it's so funny. It was like my brain was about to explode. Like I had no idea that they were gonna throw the Jefferson themes at me. Like, and then what did he say? It's like, just because it's a theme song doesn't mean it ain't true.
Yeah.
Like,
Right.
I mean, come on. Like, this movie is so fucking hilarious. And then to your point, when you was talking about the You People, that scene with You People, okay, the scene that made me laugh the most, it's funny, and it's so weird. Okay, that scene, and the Kurt Lazarus character, he goes up to Tug Speedway. He's like, oh yeah, Rambo 1, he was kind of short, but then Rambo 2, he's all bulked up. I'm just trying to be like you, man. Oh, dude, like you got any tips? You got any tips? Because they were trying to get that map. Oh, I swear how Robert Downey Jr. gave him that look as he was saying, any tips? Yeah, you got any tips? And then he just snapped, give me that goddamn map. I swear, I think I spit my drink up in the theater when he did that.
So I was gonna talk about that a little bit. I just literally have a note in front of me that just says RDJ's facial expressions.
Oh my
God. That scene, and then there's the one where they're making the plan at night to break into the facility and rescue Tug. Yes, when he's talking about it. First off, that line, just like I described with the trailers, that line already had me laughing so hard when he's like, I don't read the script reads me. And then the great moment where Jay goes, what does that even mean? But for him to like what follows is him going like, they say on IMDb trivia that like, at least half of his dialogue was somewhat improvised and stuff. Right. I mean, but when you have there going, enough with the script book, and then you just see Robert Downey Jr.'s face, like almost, I don't know if maybe they thought he was going to cut to the other angle or what, but his face goes from like anger to astonishment to wonder to joy, like all in a matter of like 3 seconds, and he's just staring locked off at Jay, and it's like I don't know what to do. Like I'm just laughing so hard. He looks incredibly funny, and it's magic. I don't know what to say about it other than it's something incredibly funny about
Yeah,
this
his acting
entire
there is
performance.
magical. Yeah,
Yeah.
I remember we discussed that he wasn't nominated, huh, for best.
No, he was nominated, but there's no way he was going to win. He was up against Heath Ledger that year, and he got, so there's no way he was going to win.
Yeah,
See,
yeah.
that's the thing. It's like kind of like the art imitates life, right? Like this movie within the movie, right? Like Kurt Lazarus, that was been his ultimate like goal is to get nominated for his role in Tropic Thunder. Flash forward to reality, Robert Downey got nominated for Tropic Thunder. I mean, just like it's the meta of it all. It's just like I've never seen something this flawlessly meta. I mean, I'm hard pressed to find another movie that can just like go in like that and just come out like on top like this.
No, that was definitely a strong moment. Like the whole man, he's like trying to get him to answer, and it's like he's like emoting and just Stiller just stays on him, like just letting the magic happen. Yeah, but
like Yusuf, when you said, "Got any tips?" and then he just repeats it because Stiller is like as you'd want in a movie. Stiller is he's going over his lines, Right. So he's like they're kind of stepping on each other's lines a bit, and he just wants that out. And he's like, "Got any tips?" And then he repeats it again. It's just.
Yeah. And what I love about this movie, like throughout their journey, it just amplifies their isolated personalities within the genres that they're kind of committing themselves to in movies, right? It's like, okay, like, Kurt Lazarus, he's in that bubble within the genre of Hollywood with this prestigious, whatever, that he took it to the extreme. And then you have your Tux Speedman. And there's certain scenes that kind of highlight or kind of touch upon, their genre. Because when the director blew up, right, he's like, oh, I worked a lot of special effects movies, Kurt. And, this is just, corn syrup.
Corn syrup. Okay, corn syrup that tastes like blood.
Warm blood corn syrup.
There's like a moment that I don't know why it made me laugh so hard this time around. Maybe I didn't notice it before, but like they're walking, like it's once they get separated from Tuck Speedman, and they're walking with the map, and Jay starting to talk about the formats and how the DVDs, the Blu-rays, and this and that, and then and Robert Downey is like, "Were you talking to me?" Like this whole time. I don't know why this made me laugh. This whole time I was like, "Well, come on, man." I just don't know why that was like just so funny. He made everything so natural by being so unnatural because he's a white man in a black face, but. And obviously, the most famous one being the the one best speech probably in the movie is like the full retard.
Oh yeah, yep, exactly.
When Downey Jr. was on I think it was the Joe Rogan podcast or something like that, they were asking him about it. It might have been a different one. I don't know. Anyway, he's been interviewed many, many times about this movie, obviously, but he was saying how. He said a lot of his friends and particularly his parents said like, don't do this movie. Like they were just telling, and he said in the end he did it because he was like really excited to do the movie. And he said, nowadays people are talking about it, but he's like, at the time it's funny because the only thing people cared about was the Simple Jack stuff.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Oh, because of the full retard thing.
Yeah, the outrage machine.
Yeah, because they'll talk about the because like mentally challenged. The whole not saying the word retard was more of a thing back then than blackface became now.
Right. But I think the clever thing about this movie, like I was saying, it's like the movie is set up because it's a movie within a movie. If someone get the context within what you're watching, it's like you get it. Like you get what's going on. It's like it had the Entertainment Tonight, whatever, about the lady kind of breaking down all the characters, doing this Tropic Thunder. It's like, oh, Kurt Lazarus went to like this radical surgery for this part. So in the reality of this movie, like he went into this pigmentation surgery to be this black person. I could see if the movie started off as, Kirk and all these people, and we just see Robert Downey Jr. black. That's where it would be an issue. But because this is a movie within a movie within a movie, you see how this Kirk Lazarus actor decided to prep for this Tropic Thunder movie by having this surgery to be black. So it's like it's a roundabout way,
Yeah, and it's the same thing with the whole mentally challenged characters, is that it's the Tux Speedman portrayal of it that going full retard is not that Ben Stiller was playing, like it's the being one removed is like, we're making fun about this, and obviously this is not the way you should do it, much like the ones who didn't win, like Sean Penn, they mentioned, and all the people that went full retard. So it's like it's kind of like saying, like, yeah, that's why those performances weren't good, because they weren't really they went too far.
Exactly.
They're commenting on an issue without endorsing it.
Right.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And I mean, one thing that really this movie knocked out of the park, one thing that Louis C.K. has brought up, and I know he has his own whole Me Too issues, but he's right about one thing, which is he has this great line about how a great joke is something that takes you somewhere that you didn't want to go and makes you happy that you went there.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
This movie does that a lot. And I mean, particularly in the Robert Downey Jr. role, there's a multi-layered brilliance that I think a lot of people don't understand about that. What do you mean, you people scene? Where like it's actually the white guy who's offended first about you people.
Yeah.
I mean,
because he's so committed. Although it's also conflicted that then he would be bothered by the Australian offense,
Right.
because if he's like a method and he's committing to the role.
But it all comes together at the end when he has that realization of who he really is.
He's both, yeah.
And he takes out the contact lenses and starts speaking in the Australian accent again. He acknowledges it. But
exactly.
but also
and the funny thing is that his Australian accent is kind of bad, of all things.
What are you talking about?
It's not great. Like his like black character is more convincing than his Australian accent. I think. I think it's an exaggerated.
Channel Mel Gibson or something.
He's using the exact same Australian accent that he developed for Natural Born Killers.
Oh, he did.
Okay.
So so maybe I don't know. Maybe
they said that originally the character was going to be Irish and have an Irish accent, but then when they cast Robert Downey Jr., he just asked them if they could just do Australian because he already was pretty familiar with it.
Okay.
Oh, for this role?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I mean, and it could be that it's just because of the way he holds himself up that makes the accent ridiculous. But but it's. Anyways, I'm not an expert on Australian accents, so yeah, it just felt a bit like exaggerated, but which is not a problem for a comedy. But I just found it interesting.
Right? Yeah, and I would like to, we have to bring up. Oh man, what's my man's name? The pyrotechnist. What's his name?
Danny McBride.
Yes. Okay. McBride. Yeah, we have to bring. Yeah, we have to mention him. We have to mention Nick Nolte. Like they're okay. That's what I'm saying. Like this movie is so well written because like the banter and arguments between those two,
Oh my
for
God.
someone who didn't know anything about the industry, like this movie cleverly writes in certain things about departments and things like that.
Yep.
It's an inside joke, but a part like anyone that's not in the industry know about like different departments will like be kind of curious, right? Just like when they had the video call with
Yep.
Les Grossman. He's like,
Key grip.
where is the key grip? Punch him in the face really fucking
So
hard.
much.
Yeah. So it's like how they just kind of make references of just different departments, not only the actors, but the crew department also. I mean,
No,
it was so
they do
cleverly
a good
written.
job.
Yeah.
So it's like not only what you're saying, like they have these inside jokes that are
Right.
really, really funny to anyone working in the industry. And yet, like you said, he's found a way to write it where it's like you don't have to be on the inside of the joke. It's
Right.
still funny. I mean,
Still
like
funny.
when he's telling Nick Nolte, he's like, listen, when they find out that they believe they killed the director. And he goes, no, I can't have this kind of heat. He's like, I almost blinded
Jamie Lee
Curtis on Freaky Friday or something like that, and by the end of the movie, he's setting up all the explosives, and he sees the rest of them almost get killed in the truck or something, and he says,
Yeah.
"That's it, I'm moving to catering," or something like that. But as a funny inside joke, at the end of the movie, when they're at the Oscars, he's like 3 rows back holding an Oscar. And then they cut to them saying the movie won 8 Oscars and $400 million and blah, blah, blah. So you must have won an Oscar for this movie.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. I mean, yeah, and that's the thing. It's just like the little. Like I said, the more I watch, the more stuff I pick up. Like maybe the 7th time I watched it, that's when I really like keyed in on all the inside jokes of the different departments. I was like, oh shit, that's pretty funny. And then what's his name? What's his name?
Jay.
It's like
Jay
Bruce. I don't know how to say his last name. I love Jay. I love him as a great actor, but I don't know how to say his last name.
And I love the fact that like he was the perfect kind of naive straight man in the midst of all of this ego around him, as far as like the established titans in their respectable genres, right? Yeah. And so he's just caught in the middle. And I love the fact throughout the movie that everyone used their narcissism as a carrot that dangled over this naive young actor's like face. Because when they're trying to get the map, like, hey man, I can get you, in this movie, or I can see you in this part, I can see you the Nickelodeon Awards, Teen Choice
Nickelodeon Award,
It's just like it's just so cleverly written. It's just like the narcissism.
And Jack Black too.
And Jack Black.
When Jack Black wanted it to be him to untie him from the tree, he's
put
like,
him in
I got a
Fatties.
part for you in the Fatties 3.
The Fatty sequel, yeah. And like I said, it's one of those like maybe the 8th time I watched it, I picked that up. I was like these people are horrible, but because they just using their like power of like the field that they're in, knowing that this is an up and coming kid that haven't been tainted yet in the Hollywood system. Like they're kind of like putting their claws in them a little bit in order to get what they want in the situation that they're in right now, kind of thing, So I thought that was pretty clever.
Yeah, and I mean, and the fact that Jay Baruchel is also even on top of the method actor who never breaks character and goes through fucking surgery, is the only one who actually went through like basic training
and read the script.
And read the script.
Read the script and knows how to read a fucking map.
Oh, exactly.
I mean, there's no question that by the last scene before they're running away from the camp, I mean, he's the one who's most in control out of all of them. They're all falling apart,
Yeah, there's also a little bit of that with I feel like with Bill Hader's character, because he's sort of like the newish assistant to Les Grossman, and he's kind of like learning how to like kind of like repeat what he's saying, only like with not as much conviction.
Seriously, a ballless monkey could do a ballless chimp could do your job or whatever.
A nutless monkey could do his job.
Nutless monkey, yeah. Yeah.
No, it's fun. Yeah.
I was gonna say to kind of jump on what Yusuf was saying earlier too. With all these like inside jokes and stuff, it's not just in the writing that's really good, but the scenes they're choosing to homage. Like anyone who's never seen it can watch that opening scene and laugh. Where they're doing Platoon with the famous Willem Dafoe
Dafoe.
scene. Yeah,
Yeah.
but there's an extra layer of awesomeness to it when you know that I think it's not only probably the most famous scene. I think it's the cover, like the poster or something.
Yeah, that was a
on
poster.
Platoon, and
Yeah.
it's like it's
everybody knows.
And I mean, it's so good. I mean, it's Oliver Stone probably arguably at his best, but where they're going into the dramatic slow-mo. It's such an incredible moment in the scene. It's a moment of betrayal. I mean, it's a moment of incredible action and spectacle. But when they filmed it, the single greatest take that they got from, and I'm saying in real life, the single greatest take that they got from Willem Dafoe, the squibs didn't go off. Right. So like he's supposed to run to the choppers, get to the ridge line where every single one of his men can see him while they're in the air, and then bullets fly through his torso as he falls to his knees and throws his hands up in like that gesture, that overly dramatic, incredible gesture. And in the movie, it almost doesn't matter that the squibs don't go off because it's so powerful. And now anyone who knows that story, we get to watch Ben Stiller do this. And I mean, it is so over the top.
It's almost like he's dancing as he's getting all the squibs going around off on him.
He's getting hit so much. The slow-mo on his face where he's like, his lips are like flying all over the place.
You know what makes it even more hilarious is it cuts back to Kurt talking about survive.
Yeah, survive. And then after all that, they play it again for the ending, but more serious, where he claws out of the wreckage and they're actually like about to take off, and he's like does the gesture. It's like perfect. It's such a great little
goodness
thing.
It's like I can't feel my legs. Oh, you're in a puddle.
It's okay.
The water's cool.
Yeah, get water. And to your point, Jason, like it was such an amazing opening shot, and it also just kind of serves like the intro, like to how everyone's going to be down each other's throats because of their respective genre, and then kind of out of their league doing this like war movie. You have. Yeah, of course, you had Kurt ready to rock with his dramatic stuff, and and you have what's his name, Tug Speedman can't really get the tears off, and and that's delaying the shoot, but you have pyrotechnics about to lay some napalm, right? So it's kind of like they're out of their element, and like that sequence right there just perfectly like encapsulate like, okay, this is what's gonna happen the rest of this movie. Like these personalities just cannot mesh because they can't even get a key scene right for this movie.
And Jack Black has no patience for
no patience. No,
and he's so angry.
He needs his jelly beans, man. He needs jelly beans.
Yeah, I mean, I think we should lead into before we missed that as also to give an appreciation for one of my favorite parts of this movie is like my other favorite comedies is that it's shot like a movie should be shot and not like every other comedy. Is the fact that they take it seriously. And I understand that sometimes you need to find an excuse to shoot a comedy like seriously, because for some reason there's this feeling that the comedy should be bright and like clear and shiny, but yeah, it's they had a very good excuse, and they did it the right way because they were going for this Platoon / Apocalypse Now look, and it's great. Like this movie would not be the same movie if it was shot like any other comedy.
No,
Exactly.
I wrote down, it looks so good until they want it to be funny.
Right. Yeah. Agreed. 100%. Yeah.
I was gonna say one thing I wanted to talk about, and I hope this doesn't come off as mean because I don't intend it to. But one of the things I love about this movie, and one of the things that I love about movies in general, really, is um, when I really love a movie, and then I love to find when I find out these stories that like it almost never happened, or it only happened this way because of factors X, Y, and Z during production. You know, and it's one of the things about making movies that's so, I think, gratifying is that it's like such a huge, a collaborative effort, collaborative art form, that inevitably you're going to end up with these stories, about how things almost never happened, or it would all almost never happened, or it was all going to be totally different, and then when you find these gems of a movie, it just kind of makes it that much more interesting, I think, but not to harp on that too much, but just to me, you know, uh, I'm I'm not a huge Owen Wilson fan, and he's really funny and stuff like Zoolander, and when he's in small parts like Armageddon and stuff like that. But I don't really connect with him when he's playing a character I'm supposed to connect with emotionally. I just tend to not usually, and I know that for a large portion of the pre-production of this movie, they were planning to have him play the Pitt character. That he's going to play
Pecker.
Pecker. That's what I'm going to say. He was going to play the agent, and you can see the writing of the character. Like you can clearly see Owen Wilson in that role, you know. And sadly, I guess at least if you're to believe IMDb, Ben Stiller told him he didn't need to do the movie because he wanted him to rest and relax, because I guess he had a suicide attempt or something like that very early on, very close to this movie, I mean. And so they got Matthew McConaughey. And I think this is one of the funniest roles McConaughey's ever done. And I mean, he's a funny guy. He does some great work. And I think I don't want to sound mean. I just think he elevates this movie in the small scenes that he's in. The way that he reacts to Bill Hader and Tom Cruise is just outstanding. He's so good, and I don't know. I think it's incredible that it all worked out the way it did. He's so funny.
Agreed. Yeah, and you know what? And one of my favorite lines that in this movie is when he get in touch with Speedman. You know, Speedman's in the jungle already, and and Speedman was like, "Oh, I like what did he say? I did something bad or something like that." And then
he said I did it. I killed the thing that I love the most.
Right. And then, I love Matthew McConaughey's reaction. He automatically like fogs up the windows from the assistant. Okay, you killed the hooker. Okay, so this is what we're gonna do. I mean, like how he just go right into it. It's just like so matter of fact, and like he's been through this situation like 100 times. It's like a playbook. He knows. Like I swear when he did that, that's another situation where I spit my like drink up.
No, I killed a panda. Amanda, that's probably not even her real name.
Oh, dude. Oh, I mean, just brilliant. I mean, I can't say enough how like I don't know, like I can't say enough how amazing this movie is written. Like,
I also like. I mean, just a little bit of a comment about Tom Cruise, though. I mean, like, I love the Mission Impossible franchise. I think that Tom Cruise is literally going to go down as the last actual action star
Agreed.
ever.
Agreed.
But still, my favorite two roles from Tom Cruise are Vincent in Collateral and Les Grossman.
And yeah, I was gonna like say Matthew McConaughey and Cruise and Robert Downey. It is funny that the best performances in this movie and the funniest are the more serious actors, the people that don't necessarily do comedy all the time. That there's something about that. I was like, I'm trying to picture this movie with all serious but funny actors. Like if you could bring like other prestigious people like a Brad Pitt, he can pull comedy off. He did that a little bit in Glorious Bastards and stuff. Yeah, so like if this movie was like even more serious, like seriously funny, like I wonder what it would have done to it. Because the only thing that slightly bothers me about this movie, I don't even mind Jay because he's a comedy actor, but he's playing a straight man in this movie. Like Jack Black, like you wouldn't think necessarily that anybody. I get it. In the Tropic Thunder movie, he's supposed to be the comic relief. That's why he's cast there. But and I can buy the Ben Stiller character because he's supposed to be an action star, and some of them are ridiculous people. But yeah, it's like I wonder if this movie was like more just cast like really good actors that don't necessarily do comedy and will just play it seriously, but because of the situation, it just makes it so much funnier because you don't expect it to. Because McConaughey, like Cruise, like it comes from out of left field. More so Cruise because of the way they kind of like made him look and all that. But and of course Downey, no question. But McConaughey held his own for sure.
I was going to say, it's funny you say that, Gil. I did not know this until just about 10 minutes before we started. I was like looking at a couple of things on IMDb. You can never trust these things 100%. I don't know if it's accurate or not or whatever, but according to this thing, it said that early on when he was writing the script, Ben Stiller was thinking of just putting himself just in the small role of the agent character, and then he wanted Keanu Reeves to be Tug Speedman.
Oh wow, that would have been very meta.
Yeah,
that's what I'm saying. I mean, probably not as good, but certainly a very interesting take. Like you were saying, it could have been like a whole different feel to it.
See, I feel like a Brad Pitt and the Tug Speedman, like that's if somebody can pull that off acting wise, to be like a douche, like a famous actor, or DiCaprio potentially.
If you saw Brad Pitt recently just did 2 really funny movies.
Yeah, he did Bullet Train.
And that the small role in that Lost City movie or whatever it was called.
Oh yeah, the Lost with Bullock and Tatum.
Yeah, it's not a great movie, but he's the best thing in it.
It was fine.
It's no Romance in the Stone.
Yeah.
No.
I really could see Keanu Reeves in the don't go full retard scene, though.
Oh no!
I think that would have played really well. I think that could have played really well. I mean, you would have to trade off way too much just for that one scene. But if Keanu Reeves played that properly, like I really could see that playing well.
Okay, but here's my thing about like having Keanu Reeves as the Tug Speedman character. It's kind of like Keanu Reeves' personality. It would be a total stretch. You would really have to dig deep into some like narcissist, like, because he's not that guy. Therefore, he never plays that character. So it would be weird for me to hit like with that scene and be like, when I was in a Simple Jag, I really, was in like, I really felt the retard thing. I don't know. I couldn't hear that coming out of Keanu Reeves' mouth.
I could, but no. Ben Stiller is definitely the better. He chose himself and he made the right decision.
He also put it on himself to have to say the whole
exactly,
like because he's the one that would be made fun of because of his like good like the whole
hurt me.
Don't hurt me.
Yeah. No, but it's, I mean, you can definitely see that. I mean, Schwarzenegger had some turns in comedies and he was a big action star. So,
Yeah.
it could definitely work to bring an action star in the Tuck Speedman, and make it work.
Yeah.
But there's something about Ben Stiller for sure that worked because he is kind of a loser. Like he is kind of like has this persona, like you could buy it. Like it's like the small Jew, you know.
I think he plays that persona in way too many of his movies.
Right.
Yeah. So it played into it that like, how did this guy like become a star? But that happens too. Exactly. Some people become movie stars just because of happenstance, because they get cast in the right role and then they get on this like roller coaster, but they were never. And you know what? I mean, Keanu, it's there's like an argument to be made that Keanu is one of those people, although he's made many good quality movies. But Keanu is one of those actors that is not really a good actor per se. He's always just acting as himself, but you just can't explain it. He's like the camera loves him. He's always great, and he does what he does. So it works. But I think it's kind of what this like was making fun of.
Exactly.
I mean, Keanu Reeves definitely puts in the work, but
I don't know how much work does he put in. I mean, like he's always like.
I mean,
physically, he puts a lot of work.
Physically.
Did you? Oh yeah, physically.
Yes. With the John Wick stuff, I mean, he became like a freaking maniac, actually in real life, in terms of firearms training.
Oh no, I love him to death. I think he's awesome. I mean, but and he's not the first one to be like a movie star that basically has like one note most of his career, and it kind of just works for him. He doesn't have to,
I mean, I think I don't know. Well, this is a digression, but I think that Keanu Reeves just did take a few really bad roles like that were not really meant for him, like Bram Stoker's Dracula.
Whoa. That could have worked. It didn't work.
But I mean, like, one of the things that people still make fun of Keanu Reeves about is that like he was nowhere close to having a good like anything accent in that movie. But I mean,
that's what I'm saying. It's so frustrating because, like, I mean,
but I mean,
I
Anthony Hopkins has never changed his accent. But
no,
I mean,
yeah. I was just gonna say, like, I used to think like, well, Keanu's just the weak link in that movie, and blah blah blah. Because I love Bram Stoker's Dracula. It's just got some problems,
Right.
But what frustrated the hell out of me is when many years later I went and saw the Kenneth Branagh Much Ado About Nothing, and he's got a pretty decent accent in that. Like, it's a British accent. It sounds good. Sure, he's not like one of the main characters. He's not in tons and tons of scenes, but he's doing a good job. And I'm like, what the hell happened? I mean, I just think like that one guy in the dialect YouTube channel thing. I mean, they probably most likely didn't give him enough time to prepare for the role.
Yeah. I think he's like he's what Ryan Gosling is like, basically a continuation of it. Is like it's these actors that have like really this one note, but if they're cast properly, it really works. Like it just really, really works. Like,
Right. But I think the reason, well, like I said, and I think to what Gil's and Matt was saying with Ben Stiller, like choosing to kind of more or less be in the line of fire, playing a Tug Speedman character, far as he know the heat was gonna come down, far as the character, he like the Simple Jack, things like that. But again, going back to how it was written, that whole like Entertainment Tonight kind of report on everybody. And they talk about Tug Speedman with all of the Scorcher movies flopping, and in that clip that he was on with Tyra Banks when she was saying like, you're on the other side of 40, and people close to you said that one more flop and you're over. And he's like,
Like,
"Oh," he said,
so
someone someone claimed they're close to me."
that was so good.
Yeah, and I mean, and then it also he had a flop with Chitlin and the Dude with Martin Lawrence. Like that was a box office disaster. I mean, like how this shit was written, I'm like, this is gold. Like, I mean, just it's like if you were to watch an Entertainment Tonight, like in reality, it would be
Yeah.
exactly like this on an actor. Like it was like art imitates life, life imitates art, and like how he was like playing like how he was playing Hollywood so close to the reality of the absurdity of movie making, of the tabloid element, of product placement, of like everything, like just the absurdity of the movie making process, and then everything outside of movies. Like he just leaned right into like the absurdity more so, and I think the reason why I loved it so much that it didn't. I'm glad that he didn't really go into like like more of like a serious like commentary of it. It's like once you kind of lean into the absurdity of the reality of a certain thing, like you can laugh at it even more, and I think you could think about it like even more with it, to the point where it's not being because sometimes if you try to flip flop tonally with certain things, okay, it's like okay, I was with you until you start being a little preachy about certain things about the movie.
It
Then
can
you
definitely
lost
be
me.
that way.
Right.
Yeah.
I think for me, like that's why I love this movie so much. It's like it just leans into the absurdity of the reality of Hollywood and pulls no punches about it. And anyways, I digress. So that's kind of like
The ways in which this movie cleverly uh, references the issues with Hollywood, like the they're they're making this movie that's supposed to be a tribute to incredible acts of these veterans. They have the guy who they believe is the veteran who
mhm.
wrote the thing, and you know, they Les Grossman gives him a little bit of lip service when he finds out who he is, and he's like, "You're a great man. You're a great patriot. You're a hero to this country." And then he just goes off on him,
Shut
and
the fuck up.
and I love that because not only is that relative to how the industry treats the source material, it's also relative to how they just treat writers in general. But I was gonna say that, and then how that plays into later in the movie when he too has a bit of a how did you put it, a crisis of
Yeah. Identity crisis.
personality or identity. Yeah, because he's a fraud. I mean, and he has his justifications for why he did it, but he's got two hands. Like he's a fraud, and and then they play into all those other aspects. Where I love that Bill Hader has one really incredible line where because he's usually just parroting Tom Cruise in these scenes, and he's fantastic at doing what he's doing in those scenes. It makes the scenes very funny, but there is a moment where things get very dark when they find out that the people that they just told off on the phone are not another agency or something, or a competing studio or something like that, but it's actual drug lord of one of the highest degrees, and they're like, oh, all three of them simultaneously in the room realize, oh, our star of our movie might be dead, or like might be close to dead at this point, and immediately McConaughey is legitimately worried about his friend and client, and it cuts to the other side where Tom Cruise and Bill Hader are. And the first thing that Bill Hader says when McConaughey asks something about, like, are you kidding? Like, you're going to let him die? And he says, it's right after it's right after Tom Cruise explains that after they do all this public stuff about the memorial fund and everything like that, that they would then very quietly, way later on, file an insurance claim. And then Bill Hader just chimes in and goes, before the fiscal year, hopefully. And he goes, he says, by the way, the claim, what we'll get back on that insurance claim will cover the whole movie. And it's a really dark little tiny moment within the thing. There's all these little moments like that, but one of the things I love the most is that McConaughey's character represents, a lot of things, I mean, particularly he's the agent. And I mean, if you've ever seen Entourage, anyone knows that there's like this whole aspect of what an agent does for their clients and how that all feeds into the whole system and everything. But he's also trying to be his friend. And of course they visually show this beautifully with where he's contemplatively staring out the window of his office with a picture of him and his friend in one, and then the G5
magazine.
It's so a G5 owner magazine, and it's so funny. But he makes the right choice, and the whole movie, his character's connection to his client has been personified he hasn't been personified, but his goal is to get the TiVo to Tug, to his client. And Tug doesn't even want the thing. He doesn't even care. But it is that TiVo, and the fact that it's in his writer and it's in his contract and everything like that is what represents the ugly side of, the industry. And I love that in a very Die Hard-esque way, like with the watch at the end of Die Hard, the last thing you see with McConaughey is him fulfilling his responsibility to his friend by showing up with the stupid TiVo. And not going for the G5. But then as they're about to die, he throws the TiVo up and it gets destroyed by the RPG. Thus, symbolizing what those characters have gone through and everything like that.
Well, saving them too. I mean,
and saving them in the process. He doesn't just do it arbitrarily.
He got to get his client to TiVo,
which is why I said Die Hard, because not only does Holly take off the symbol of her becoming a
independent corporate woman, who doesn't need a husband. Not only does she remove it from her physically, he saves her in the process of doing it. Right. Yeah. There you go. To Pecker McLean. But no, that's a good point though. That's a really good point with his character. Yeah, like I said, a lot of layers. I mean, that's the thing. Like the more you watch it, the more you catch, the more layers you discover. And I think for me, that's what makes a movie timeless. It's just stuff when you keep watching it. There's maybe a piece of dialogue you miss, or maybe like a hold on a person's reaction that you didn't really catch. It's all in this movie. Like, and you keep watching it, and there's so much more stuff I catch. For me, I think that's why for me this movie, is up there, because the replayability, not only the fact that it's, funny and awesome in its own right, it's just like the replayability within the movie when you keep watching it. It's just like, oh shit, I didn't catch that. I can't believe I didn't see that, And I think that's what gives it longevity.
It's a very dense movie. There's no doubt. Like it's Stiller just just landed on a gold mine. Like you get these ideas once in a career that are just there's like wealth. Like you can just dig so deep, and there's just so much. Yeah, like he's just firing on all cylinders. All the characters are great. I mean, it's
not only is his writing and directing so good. I mean, just me personally, as someone who's not a huge Ben Stiller fan, I think it's one of his best movies acting wise too.
Yeah, no, for sure. I mean, I don't think his performance is outrageously good. It's just that he's within the best movie he's ever been in.
Right.
So obviously,
maybe I should. I don't know. So like to put this very quickly, I don't want to get too deep into this or anything, but like for me, before this movie was made, prior to this, I have this real polarized view of Ben Stiller, because I have always loved Ben Stiller whenever I don't have to connect with him emotionally. When he's a villain, I eat it up. Heavyweights, dodgeball. I mean, that stuff is incredible. Happy Gilmore, when he plays the nursing home guy who's like forcing a bunch of old women to quilt for him for money. Like, I mean, that stuff's incredible. His character in Arrested Development is also very not likable. Not meant to be. Not meant to be likable. You like not liking him. All that stuff. I love him when he's like that. But then when I see him in like the Royal Tenenbaums, or I see him in like Something About Mary is such a good movie that I like it so much in spite of him. I don't want to I don't think he deserves her. I mean, I don't like him. I can't stand his character in Meet the Parents or anything like that. So it's like, whenever he's a likable guy, I just don't go for it, And then this movie came out, and he's an action star. He's a little bit dumb, but he's generally, despite his flaws, he's trying to, make it work. He's a likable character, and I was just overwhelmed. I love it. I love him so much in this movie, and it breaks my, the whole system. I don't understand it. I really, really like him in this movie.
I mean, I personally think he's perfectly cast, and there's something about Mary. It's probably his best role that he fits into like a glove.
Yeah, I agree.
And I understand that you don't like him, but I don't think you're supposed to like him. He's not extremely sympathetic.
Oh yeah, no, I agree. He's perfectly cast for that character. I just how can I say this? Like, I don't. When there's like someone who just rubs you the wrong way, like I just can't enjoy. I have a very difficult time enjoying movies where he's in, and I'm supposed to like root for him.
Yeah. No, I understand that. Cool.
But this movie's different.
Yeah.
Did you guys just throwing this out there? I find this interesting. Did you guys watch the theatrical cut or the director's cut?
Well, of course, I saw the theatrical cut in theaters, and I saw the director's cut like recently.
Okay, I was
this
just
is
wondering.
For Tropic Thunder.
Yeah, Tropic Thunder.
Oh, I didn't know there was one. I just watched it online.
But it's only like extra like 6 minutes or so. I mean, it's not even.
It's not a James Cameron director's cut.
Right.
No. I just wanted to bring it up because you would think I would have a list written down of this. I don't. This is one of the rare movies that I love and has a director's cut, but I actually kind of prefer the theatrical one.
Yeah, me too.
There's a few jokes that he extends, like I can see how probably in the editing room everybody was laughing out loud, and it just like the severed head moment when Steve Coogan's gets blown up and he's holding up the latex head.
Yeah, that goes on a little too long.
The director's cut goes on and on and on.
Yeah.
And I remember laughing so hard when I watched it in theaters. And then the first time I watched the director's cut, I was like, ooh, we haven't cut yet, huh? All right.
It was still going.
Yeah. And so I don't know. That's the one thing I could remember off the top of my head. But I just remembered that this is one of the very few movies that I actually preferred the theatrical cut to like a special director's cut.
Okay.
So much so that I bought a copy just to watch it tonight.
I'm actually the opposite. I generally prefer theatrical cuts. Honestly, I mean, obviously there are some variations like Blade Runner and
Aliens.
The
Dark City.
Definitely Dark City. Director's cut of Dark City 100% all day, every day. Jesus Christ, never watch the theatrical cut, watch the director's cut. But I mean,
I actually have an actual list of special editions that are better, or director's cuts, whatever, other alternate versions that are way better than the theatrical. I only have maybe a handful of examples of the other way around.
Yeah, but the thing is, like, I'm I'm 50-50 on this one because there are some director's cuts that flesh out some things that was, of course, chopped down for time for theatrical release. Yes. But
Mm.
then there are some theatrical cuts. When I see director's cuts, I can see like okay, it was some good calls on some of these cuts because like the director's vision sometimes could be a little bit self-indulgent to the
Yeah.
detriment of the pacing of the actual finished product. So I'm kind of on both ends of the spectrum. Like I'm not all on one side or the other, but I do see a couple of director's cuts. I'm like, I like the theatrical was a little tighter, and then I seen theatrical cuts like, well, the director's cut expanded a little bit more on certain elements or certain themes that was cut a little short in the theatrical cut. So I don't know. I'm on both ends of the fence on that one.
To anyone who doesn't know, Matt mentioned the commentary by who did this again? John Toll?
John Toll, yeah.
Yeah, John Toll. Anyway, so if you haven't had a chance to watch it, this movie has one of the greatest commentaries of all time because there's a actor, in the movie, Kirk Lazarus says when they ask him, "Why are you still in character?" and he says to Ben Stiller's character, he says, "I don't break character until I've recorded the DVD commentary." So in the movie, when you watch the commentary with Ben Stiller, Jack Black, and Robert Downey Jr., the three of them talk the whole time. They make a ton of funny jokes, but throughout the movie, since you don't even, except for in the trailer stuff, you don't actually see Kirk Lazarus's character until he's already in the in character in his costume and everything. So from the beginning of the commentary, from the beginning of the movie, he stays in character the whole time.
Right. Yeah. So Robert Downey Jr. is talking as
Kirk as the Lincoln something or other.
Right.
Sorry, First Sergeant Lincoln or whatever it was. Yeah, but he's speaking as that character the whole movie until they get to the scene where they are infiltrating the base. Then he starts speaking in Mandarin, and I don't know what he's saying. Right. But he starts speaking in Mandarin for that one scene and commenting in Mandarin. And then as soon as his character has his crazy epiphany or whatever that happens in that room, he starts speaking in his Australian accent. Mm-hmm. And then from the moment that the credits start rolling, he starts speaking as Robert Downey Jr.
Regular Robert Downey Jr.
Yeah. And it's definitely worth watching.
That commentary should be nominated for some sort of an award.
It should be nominated for something.
Yeah, it was amazing.
It's like so unnecessary, but so committed.
So committed. Wow. I mean, and that's just kind of a testament of like you see how much fun everyone is having with each other. Like I think that's kind of it shows in this movie. You could just sense that everyone is just in the mode and just bouncing off of each other and just riffing and just absorbing each other and throwing stuff back at each other. And it just seems like they're just having so much fun playing these characters and riffing off of one another. So, but I think that's what make it magical. Lightning in the bottle, as Gil would call it.
Yeah. And I guess it's good that he kept it pretty vague who he was making fun of. And even when he makes fun specifically of like the Eddie Murphy movies, it's by a white chubby actor, so it's not really a direct like insult or anything.
Right.
So he was smart about that.
I think in some interviews, I think even though his movie is clearly the Clumps, Jack Black himself said at some point that he was like trying to channel like a Chris Farley like character as much as he could.
Yeah,
I can see that.
It's a combo. Yeah.
I mean, I think bottom line, in terms of comedies go, this is the perfect example of exactly what we need right now, and it came out
2008.
15 years ago,
Hmm.
which is just, we're going to bust through the door. We are going to make a mess. People are going to be offended, and we're going to have fun. We're going to go places that you didn't know that you wanted to go, and we're going to make you happy that you went there. And when people look at this and have looked at this and said, hey, this isn't really gelling with our 2023 sentimentalities and all that stuff, and hey, this isn't acceptable anymore, maybe you should apologize. They have and should say fuck you.
Hmm.
I think they
That's
should just re-release it. That's what they should do.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
mean,
I'd go
it's
see
a-
it again.
it's
I'd go
the fifth-
see it.
In
That's
Yeah,
even
it's
IMAX.
a
better, yeah.
15-year anniversary, or like
Yeah.
wait for the 20th year anniversary.
Yeah.
or
Release that
something.
shit in IMAX.
In
In
IMAX.
IMAX.
Why not? Why not?
Yes.
All for it, yeah. No, I mean, yeah, it's a beautiful thing. I don't think it was intended to be as beautiful a thing as it was when it was released. It was just supposed to be good fun, but it is a beautiful thing now to look upon. I am immensely happy that we've uh, looked back upon it. So
Yeah, I mean, I
anyway.
think to me, similar movies to this would be like Hot Fuzz and Last Action Hero, but there's definitely something about this movie that makes it more consequential because of the culturally how it's become more and more prevalent because of the sensitivities. That there's something to it for sure. That's
Yeah,
it's
it's kind of
definitely
funny.
it's more of a satire. It's more of a, and it's definitely got the outrageousness about it, like for good reasons, like Matt says, like it's outrageous to be funny, not to be offensive. Yeah, for all the right reasons.
Great.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, yeah, definitely. Yeah. And like, and to Matt's point, this is definitely, it's definitely a movie that when you watch it in retrospect in context of today, it's it's kind of like a movie that we need to kind of, protect and
Yeah.
kind of it'd be like, oh, like hold on, like don't,
Defend.
like, yeah, like defend and protect, because like you said, like as years go by, decades go by, with social media now and everything, kind of picking apart certain things that, the unfortunate thing is, like, the majority of, society can't really comprehend the concept of satire. Therefore, it's a threat, right? It's like, therefore, they misconstrued satire as something mean.
Yeah.
And that's not the case with this movie. This movie is a satire. It's a satire, but there's no mean bone in this movie. I mean, an individual can kind of pluck some things out and misconstrue certain characters, certain things they say in dialogue as being insensitive and just cruel and things like that. But the movie itself is generally like a pretty thoughtful satire that is a springboard for conversations, for things to change, far as images, far as Hollywood, and kind of like the carrot that's dangled far as an Oscar, to have actors go through those extremes to change their skin color, to play a mentally challenging person, because they're trying to get that carrot, which is, the Oscar, right? So it's like, it's so many ways to view it, but one thing you can never say, this is that this movie is cruel, insensitive, and thoughtless. And I think that's why this movie is such a classic. And for me, I hold it in such high esteem because it's ballsy, it's thoughtful,
Mhm.
it's funny, and on top of that, such uh it's such a springboard. over the generations. We could watch this 20 years later and still pick some stuff up, and we can put a mirror to the industry, flash forward 20 years later, and it could still be the same shit that Ben Stiller was lampooning. But yeah, I think that's why this movie is like a classic.
It should definitely be required viewing for the industry.
Oh yeah.
Well, and also, I don't want to push this too much further, but it is also a perfect example of everything that I've read, everything that I've seen coming up in recent years, saying like, oh, does Tropic Thunder hold up? Just like, does Blazing Saddles hold up? Is it appropriate for the modern audiences or today's sentimentalities and so on and so forth? It's just like, this is a movie that understands that sometimes you have to be offensive on the path to being not offensive. Eventually, like the punchline is not offensive. The setup is offensive. The setup to the joke is offensive. Like, there's some seriously racist shit going on in the movie from time to time. Just like the rice patty jokes are not exactly PC by today's standards.
Right.
But I mean, just like with Blazing Saddles, just like with all these other classic comedies, they understand that they're being offensive to get to a point that is not offensive.
Right.
They're being racist to get to a point that is not racist. They're, maybe you're homophobic to make a point, to eventually make a point that is anti-homophobia.
Right.
Well, especially because you're once removed, because it's the actors within the movie, like the vain, stupid actors that are saying these things and taking these actions, and yes, it's
right.
Yeah,
Makes sense.
But yeah, I mean, it just seems to. Again, you can correct me if I'm wrong, by all means. But I mean, that's just my take that. This is a movie that really knocked it out of the park in that term of being offensive on the path to being unoffensive.
Yeah,
But,
it's like Blazing Saddles is like the sheriff is a ding. It's like the character is racist. The movie is not. That's the whole point of that moment.
Yeah, and that's so much of the brilliance of comedy that we can't get past now. And that's something that like Gil, you brought up about like the trailers of the moment somebody, some pink-haired liberal arts college major, sees Robert Downey Jr. in blackface, it's going to be like, oh, this is where I can win some points, right? By going to social media and saying, hey, how dare this white man do this thing as a joke? It's like, but okay, have you seen the fucking movie? Well, of course not. I would never see the movie. How would I give my hard-earned money that my dad made to go see this movie? I would never support something like this. Like, well, hey, if you go see the fucking movie, you see that it's actually a joke about how fucked up this would actually be.
If anything, usually the movies that would offend would tend to be serious movies. That's what what I brought up in the beginning. The stand-up comedians, like when Chappelle has like this 20-minute story about like this transgender friend that he has, like it's like they build the whole
had
Had, yes, the one who
Yeah.
passed away. And like the whole idea is that like they build these jokes. And Louis C.K. too, he has this whole thing about like he wants to say the N-word on stage, so he's got this whole bit about like reading Mark Twain to his kids. And like
Yeah.
there's every other word is like N-word, but he says the word fully, but he's excusing it by talking about like, okay, kids, now just so you know, this is a bad word that used to like, blah blah blah. Like he's making it a joke, but it's an excuse for him to say the offensive word for the right reason. Like, so that's what comedy does, and that's what this does, and that's why usually the stuff that is offensive to people is the stuff that tries to be serious, like the Zoe Saldana thing, the I don't know, when people are cast like as like a white actress as a Hawaiian native, or stuff like that. Like, but it's not the comedies really that people should be worried about. Yeah, I remember like there was Jonah Hill was like on NPR or something, on an interview with like Terry Gross, and she asked him about Superbad. She was like, there was like a line, like a scene in Superbad where they're like just bad mouthing the girls that they want to sleep with and something, and Jonah Hill was just like, just dumbfounded, was like, yeah. I mean, I didn't write that script, but I can't believe we said that. I mean, I'm so embarrassed. Like, I would never do that now.
He
And
fell
it's
for
just
it.
like,
What a
it's
bitch.
like,
Caught
fuck
the
that.
bait.
Like, come on. It was done for a comedic effect. It's like the correct answer is like, no, well, the point is that they're teenagers. They're idiots. They're stupid.
Right.
Of course they will say the inappropriate thing. That's the why the movie is
Yeah, it's
funny.
like, have you heard a teenager? Good
Yeah, it's
Lord.
enabling us as the audience to live through that and to say, okay, that's offensive. That's not the right thing to do, but that's what this character would do. But for him to just stop dead and apologize and say, oh my God, I would never say that line
And
now if I was in a movie. I would fight the
and
director not to
right,
say that line.
right, and also throw the writers under the bus.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, not
Yeah.
cool.
The writer that's a good friend of his.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, I mean, it's just one of those things where, like, I mean, are we going to start attacking, like filmmakers who are making like Civil War dramas, built around the South for like the language that they put into the mouths of like people who are playing like plantation owners and enforcers and shit? I mean, like, I mean, I mean, more relevant to Superbad. I mean, I've been, I've been in locker rooms. I played football. I know how guys talk about girls, in high school locker rooms, just as much as everybody else. I mean, like, I mean, I can't say that I was ever a huge fan of how people talked, but I could, if I were David Mamet with a recorder recording how people talked in the locker room, and I decided to write a script about that, I would be writing some really offensive shit about women.
Yeah.
Just to write in that vernacular. And I mean, eventually you have to be honest about your characters. And sometimes you have to write really bad people. I mean,
It's called the movies. Like it's supposed to be
right.
a representation of a dramatic representation of reality for good, the bad, and the ugly.
Right. I mean, am I supposed to write a Nazi character where he just refers to Jewish people as like uh, people who uh, uh, people who are religiously adjacent but don't believe that Christ was the Son of God?
Man, that's a
I,
long piece of
I,
dialogue.
right. It
Little
seems
wordy,
just
right? Just a little
right,
bit.
right. I mean, are the Nazis actually supposed to be around, be going around talking about Jews in that kind of respectful language of like, oh yeah, oh I mean, that great Louis C.K. bit about finding the girl in Schindler's List who's yelling "Goodbye Jews, goodbye Jews," and it, how many cute young girls must have walked into that room and like, okay, just read the line. Goodbye Jews, goodbye Jews, goodbye Jews. No, you're mad at the Jews. Okay. Goodbye, Jews. Goodbye, Jews.
Oh, my favorite thing of Lucy K about the Jews, he says like, Jew is the only like Jews is the only like group of people where the actual word to call them is also offensive. And then it's all about the way you say it, like, oh yeah, he's my friend, he's a Jew, or like, oh, he's my friend, he's a Jew. It's like it's the same word, it's just all in the way you say it.
That's hilarious.
Yeah, well, Gil, I always refer to you with a downward inflection, so.
Oh yeah, no, I'm sure.
Yeah, and that's what friends are for, I guess.
Yeah, right.
Definitely.